The fluorescent lights of the courtroom hummed, a sterile counterpoint to the turmoil churning inside me. My hands, usually steady, trembled slightly as I gripped the worn wood of the witness stand. Across the room, Officer K stared back, his face a mask of professional indifference. He was a big man, broad-shouldered, with a jaw that looked like it had been carved from granite. He sat ramrod straight, a symbol of the authority that had nearly crushed me. "My lawyer, Miss Tanya Sharma, gave me a reassuring nod, Mr. Eli Johnson," she began, her voice clear and strong, cutting through the hushed atmosphere. "Please state your name and occupation for the court." "Elijah Johnson," I replied, my voice a little rough. I work at a construction site. Labora." "Mr. Johnson, you are bringing this suit against the city of Oakhaven and Officer Robert K. Alleging what specifically are you alleging?" I swallowed hard. The weight of the room, the weight of the past, pressed down on me. "I'm alleging excessive force, racial profiling, police brutality." The words hung in the air, stark and accusatory. A murmur rippled through the gallery. I avoided looking at the faces, knowing I'd see a mixture of curiosity, skepticism, and maybe, just maybe, a flicker of understanding. "Mr. Johnson," M. Sharma continued, "can you describe the events of the night of July 14th, 2 years ago?" The question was a key turning in my memories, unlocking a flood of images, sounds, and emotions. I closed my eyes for a moment, bracing myself. "It started," I began, and the courtroom faded away, replaced by the harsh glare of headlights and the pounding of my own heart. July 14th. The air hung thick and heavy with summer humidity. I was walking home from my second job at the diner, the smell of greasy fries clinging to my clothes. The extra money was essential. I was saving every penny I could to help my mom with the bills. I turned the corner onto Elm Street, a familiar shortcut through a quiet residential neighborhood. That's when I saw them, the patrol car, idling at the curb, its headlights cutting through the dim light. 2 officers were inside, their faces obscured by the shadows. As I walked past, the car suddenly lurched forward, tires squealing. The bright beam of a spotlight hit me square in the face, blinding me. "Hey you, stop right there," a voice barked over the loudspeaker. Panic flared in my chest. I hadn't done anything wrong. I was just walking home. But I knew instinctively that being black in this neighborhood at night was enough to make me a target. I stopped, my hands raised instinctively. "Officer, I live around here. I'm just heading home." The officers got out of the car. The one who had shouted was Officer K. He was even bigger up close, his uniform crisp and imposing. The other officer, a younger, thinner guy, stood back, his hand resting on his holster. "What's your name?" Officer K demanded, his voice hard. "Eli Johnson." "And what are you doing out here this late?" "I told you, officer, I'm walking home from work." "Where do you work?" "The diner on Main Street." He narrowed his eyes, his gaze sweeping over me, assessing, judging. "Let's see some ID." I reached into my pocket, my heart pounding. "Sure, officer, just let me get it." But before I could even pull out my wallet, Officer K grabbed my wrist, twisting it behind my back. Pain shot up my arm. "What are you doing?" I yelled, fear turning to anger. Resisting arrest, he snarled. "Put your hands behind your back." He shoved me against the hood of the car, the metal hot against my skin. The other officer watched, saying nothing. I struggled, trying to break free, but Officer K was too strong. He tightened his grip, and a sharp, agonizing pain ripped through my shoulder. "I'm not resisting," I cried out. "You're hurting me." "Shut up." He pressed my face against the hood, the rough surface scraping my skin. "You have the right to remain silent." The Miranda rights were recited mechanically, a hollow formality against the backdrop of the brutal reality. I was being arrested, my rights violated, and I didn't even know why. The arrest itself was a blur of pain and humiliation. I was thrown into the back of the patrol car, my shoulder throbbing, my face stinging. At the station I was booked, fingerprinted, and thrown into a holding cell. The cell was small, cold, and smelled of stale sweat and despair. I sat on the concrete bench, trying to make sense of what had happened. Why me? Was it just because I was black? Hours later, after what felt like an eternity, I was finally allowed to make a phone call. I called my mom, her voice tight with worry when she answered. I told her what happened, trying to downplay the pain and fear. "Oh, Elijah," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm so sorry. I'll get to the station as soon as I can." She arrived a couple of hours later, her face etched with worry. She had managed to scrape together enough money for bail. Leaving the station, I felt a mixture of relief and burning anger. Relief to be free, but anger at the injustice, the blatant racism that had landed me there. The charges were eventually dropped. Lack of evidence, they said. But the damage was done. My shoulder was injured, requiring physical therapy. The humiliation of being arrested, the fear of the police, lingered like a shadow. This wasn't the first time I'd experienced this kind of treatment. Growing up in Oak Haven, I'd learned early on that being black meant being viewed with suspicion, judged by a different standard. There were the countless times I was followed in stores, the subtle but unmistakable glances of distrust, the feeling of being constantly watched. There were the jokes, the casual slurs, the unspoken assumptions that I was somehow less intelligent, less capable, less worthy than my white peers. My mom had always told me to be careful, to be respectful, to avoid trouble. You have to be twice as good to get half as far, she'd say. But it wasn't enough. No matter how hard I tried, no matter how law-abiding I was, my skin color made me a target. Even after the charges were dropped, the incident haunted me. I avoided Elm Street, the memory of that night too painful. I saw Officer K around town, and my heart would pound with fear and anger. I tried to move on, to forget about it, but I couldn't. The weight of injustice, the weight of fear, was too heavy to bear. Back in the courtroom. I opened my eyes, the fluorescent lights of the courtroom a stark contrast to the darkness of my memories. I saw Miss Sharma looking at me, her expression encouraging. "Mr. Johnson," she said softly, "thank you for sharing that. Now, can you tell the court why you decided to file this lawsuit?" I took a deep breath. "Because it's not right," I said, my voice stronger now. "What happened to me, what happens to so many black men in this country, it's not right. We deserve to be treated with respect, with dignity. We deserve to be safe." I looked across the room at Officer K, his face still impassive. "I'm not asking for revenge," I said. "I'm asking for justice, I'm asking for accountability, I'm asking for change." The trial was long and arduous. Ms. Sharma presented evidence of Officer K's past disciplinary issues, the testimony of other black residents who had experienced similar treatment. The defense argued that I was resisting arrest, that Officer K acted in self-defense. The jury deliberated for days. The wait was agonizing, each hour stretching into an eternity. Finally, the verdict came. The courtroom was packed, the atmosphere thick with tension. The jury foreman, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes, read the verdict. "We the jury find in favor of the plaintiff, Elijah Johnson." A gasp rippled through the room. I gripped the table, my heart pounding. "On the charge of excessive force." A wave of relief washed over me, so powerful it almost knocked me off my feet. I had won. Not a complete victory, but a victory nonetheless. The jury also found in favor of the defendant on the charge of racial profiling. It wasn't everything I had hoped for, but it was a start. After the trial, I stood outside the courthouse, the sun warm on my face. Sharma put a hand on my shoulder. "You did it, Elijah," she said, smiling. "You stood up for yourself and you made a difference." The fight wasn't over. There was still so much work to be done to combat racism and police brutality. But in that moment, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, things could change. Maybe the weight of blue wouldn't always feel so heavy. Maybe one day, justice would truly be blind. My journey had just begun. The road ahead was long, but I knew that I was not alone. There were many others like me, ready to fight for a better tomorrow, and together we would make a change.